Imagine a 45-year-old patient which is presenting with sudden breathlessness and mild hypotension. CT confirms pulmonary embolism. Now the real question is not what it is, but how dangerous it is. Should we anticoagulate, thrombolyze, or monitor? So pulmonary embolism has a highly variable clinical spectrum from asymptomatic cases to sudden cardiac death. So challenge is not diagnosis alone, but identifying which patient are at risk of deterioration. So these modern guidelines, including those from European Society of Cardiology and American Heart Association, they emphasize that management of pulmonary embolism is no longer one size fits all. It is driven by early risk assessment. So this risk stratification, this integrates clinical scores, imaging and biomarkers. So the core update of 2026 includes not just the hemodynamics, not just the BP anymore, but it includes RV dysfunction with biomarkers with clinical scores. So RV dysfunction on the echo is demonstrated by RV dilatation, ANSI-Connell sign, and biomarkers consist of troponin and proBNP, and clinical scores consist of pulmonary embolism severity index, which consists of 11 variables, and simple pulmonary embolism severity index, which consists of 6 variables. So according to AHA update, so this is new clinical category model, and this replaces the old massive, submassive terminology. So if we, in detail, if you need to know, A is asymptomatic, has a lowest risk. So according to the lowest risk and the highest risk, this category is divided. A consists of lowest risk, B is symptomatic, has a low severity index, C is symptomatic and further divided into C1, C2 and C3. In the C1 there is normal RV and normal biomarker. In C2 either there is abnormal RV or abnormal biomarker, and in the C3 both of them are present, abnormal RV plus more than one biomarker. D, this is incipient cardiopulmonary failure. There can be shock, there's a transient hypotension, normotensive shock, and E is cardiopulmonary failure, which consists of highest risk, have cardiogenic shock, refractory and recurrent shock. So in short, if you want to learn, A is asymptomatic, B is low severity symptom, C is stable but has a risk of strain, which is further divided into C1, C2 and C3. C1 is that consists of no RV dysfunction and normal biomarker. C2 has either of them and C3 has both. And D is impending shock and E is a cardiac arrest. Now ESC, the European Society of Cardiology risk stratification. So this predicts the early mortality. So this is divided into low, intermediate high and high. So in the intermediate low, patient is hemodynamically stable, there is no RV dysfunction, normal biomarker, everything is normal, just the CT confirms it, so the mortality is less than 1%. When either of them is present, it's a 3%. When both are present, this has become almost 5 times, so 5 to 15%, and high, in which the patient has shock or cardiac arrest, it is more than 30%. So the key determinant here is hemodynamic instability, right? So the next question is now risk stratification flowchart. So confirming PE. So how would you confirm PE? First of all, you have a suspicion of PE with the dyspnea, chest pain, tachycardia. You'll go for a well scoring. So if well score comes out to be low or intermediate, then you will consider doing D dimer, and if D dimer is negative, you will exclude the pulmonary embolism. If it is positive, you can undergo CT pulmonary angiography, and if it is high, you can directly go for the imaging. If this is not clear, then you can go for VP, ventilation perfusion scan, and for the USG. So after confirming the CT, after confirming the pulmonary embolism, you have to check whether the patient is hemodynamically unstable or stable. So if the patient is hemodynamically unstable, that comes under the high risk category, and this high risk category is AHA, D and E. In that case, you need immediate reperfusion therapy, either by systemic thrombolysis or catheter surgical embolectomy. If there is no instability, you have to evaluate the patient further. In that case, you have to assess the echo and the biomarkers. If both are negative, that comes under low risk. Or AHA, B, C1, as you know, so you can anticoagulate the patient, and you can do the early discharge, outpatient management if appropriate. And if one of them is positive, you can also now you can do anticoagulation and you can do clinical monitoring. And if both of them are positive, that comes under C3 and intermediate high. In that case, you can do reperfusion if needed. Yes, of course, anticoagulation will be needed. So these are the important tools which you need to consider while risk stratifying. First of all is a BP management. As BP less than 90, it's a high risk category and immediate reperfusion is needed with thrombolysis or embolectomy. If it is RV dysfunction, as I've told you, RV dilatation and MC Connell sign on echo, and on the CT there is RV-LV ratio. The biomarkers, troponin is high, BNP is high, and the clinical scoring, it's a pulmonary embolism severity index and simple pulmonary embolism severity index. If it is 0, it's a low risk. If it is more than 1, it needs further stratification on the basis of RV dysfunction and biomarker. So the initial management is oxygen, hemodynamic support, and treating the underlying cause, and also anticoagulation for all the pulmonary embolism patient. Provoked versus unprovoked pulmonary embolism. Provoked when there is existing risk factor like surgery, trauma, or OCPs, and unprovoked no risk factor and thrombophilias. So anticoagulation for all the pulmonary embolism patient unless it is contraindicated. Under anticoagulation, the first line options you use is a low molecular weight. You use low molecular weight heparin. So low molecular weight heparin, it is used most commonly. If patient is of high bleeding risk or hemodynamically unstable, you can use unfractionated heparin, and new and oral anticoagulation agents also you can use. You can use apixaban or rivaroxaban. So now the question is how long you are using this anticoagulation. If the event was provoked, you use it for 3 to 6 months. If it was unprovoked, you can use for more than 3 to 6 months, and which is known as extended. If it is a recurrent or long term, you can use the long term. For high risk patient, you use thrombolysis. So when the patient has less than 90 BP, when patient is under shock, when has a cardiac arrest. So which agent is used for thrombolysis? It is alteplase. And this intermediate risk patient, they have RV dysfunction and increased troponin but stable BP. So routine thrombolysis is not recommended here. Only if patient is clinically deteriorating, then you will consider. So what are the absolute contraindication for the thrombolysis? If patient has active bleeding, intracranial hemorrhage, and recent major surgery.